Hey friends, welcome back to the Don't Waste the Chaos podcast, where we bring clarity to HR and business operations with a blend of refined knowledge and a warm connection. I'm your host, Kerri Roberts, and today I want to talk to you about something that's been on my mind for a while, and that is why hiring for an entrepreneurial spirit isn't the best idea. Now, I know that may sound like a hot take, especially coming from me, someone who has made entrepreneurship not just a career, but a calling. But stick with me because we're going to dig into why this well-intentioned hiring strategy can backfire, how it shows up inside your team dynamics, and what you may want to do instead. Now, that's not to say that in my past, I haven't written in a job description or a job posting looking for an entrepreneurial spirit, but I've had some lessons learned. Now, this episode was inspired by a recent interview that I listened to on the Diary of a CEO podcast. Stephen Bartlett interviewed Brian Chesky, who's the CEO of Airbnb, and what he shared about culture and hiring deeply resonated with me. So let's get into it. When people say they're looking for someone with an entrepreneurial spirit, what they often mean is scrappy, innovative, driven, self-starting, and okay with risk. And in the early days of a startup, these folks are gold. But what about inside of a small business with a team of 10, where collaboration, consistency, and culture are key? Those same traits can start to backfire. Someone who's highly entrepreneurial may resist structure. They may want to reinvent every system, challenge authority, or prioritize their own ideas over team objectives. According to a 2024 study by Interesting Engineering, researchers analyzed 25,000 successful startup founders and found 6 dominant personality types. What do they all have in common? High levels of independence, risk tolerance, and nonconformity. Those are powerful traits when you're building something from scratch, but they don't always play well in a team that's trying to row the boat in the same direction. Brian Chesky, in the interview that I was listening to on Diary of a CEO, shared a perspective that honestly felt like a breath of fresh air. He said, if you break the culture, you break the machine that creates your products. And I loved that. He talked about how at Airbnb, they knew their culture was their engine, so they protected it like it was sacred. He said they refused to compromise on cultural fit, even with high-performing candidates. Even with specialists that could have added firepower to their innovative team. Instead, they chose more intentionally. He shared that when you're scaling, you don't need 1,000 innovators. You need people who can operate the machine, people who are inspired by the mission and willing to work within a framework, not dismantle it. And that hit home for me. I want to share something personal because this episode isn't just a strategic thought experiment. It's been my lived experience. Before founding Salt and Light Advisors, I worked in a number of different companies. Let me walk you through what my journey looked like. When I was finishing up my undergrad, I was in a healthcare system. I wanted to work in HR. I applied in an organization. It was a distribution company. I got a role. I started in HR. I was there for 5 years. I got recruited over into a mortgage company. I was in that mortgage company for around 5 years. And then I took about 5 or 6 months off to stay at home with my son the summer before he went to kindergarten. Then I went and worked at a university system, and that was for about 18 months because honestly, the public sector was a catastrophe for me. After I left there, I got recruited over into an independent insurance agency. I was there for about 4.5 years before we sold majority share to a larger organization. I then kept a dual role at my private insurance or my independent insurance agency and also had this dual appointment at the purchasing company. Then I left there and took a role. I sold my shares. I was a shareholder at that time, and then took a role at a company that buys insurance companies because I loved that M&A space and was there for about 6 months. And within the first couple of months, I was like, gosh, dang it, I'm doing it again. Everywhere I go, I'm doing the same thing. I need to start my own business. It was just, I could just see what needed to happen. And I felt like a bull in a china shop. And over again, people would recruit me because I would be the difference maker, right? I was the shiny penny. I was like this unique person who could come in and analyze and then push and get things done. But you know what happens when you do that? The savior turns into the scapegoat when anything gets hard. When employees don't like being pushed, when a new technology is brought on board and implemented and people don't want to use it, and you start holding them accountable. you become the problem. And every time I kept finding myself asking, why am I not thriving here? It took me years before I realized it wasn't a skill set mismatch. It was a values and alignment mismatch. I was constantly bumping up against broken systems and leadership that didn't value either integrity or long-term sustainability or innovation. I had an entrepreneurial spirit inside of a structure that didn't want it, or worse, they said they wanted innovation, but they punished it when it showed up. When I finally stepped into entrepreneurship, it clicked. But now, as someone building a business, I've seen the flip side. I've made hiring decisions based on hustle or charisma instead of true alignment. And I've learned the hard way that drive without direction can wreak havoc. Entrepreneurial traits are a gift, but they come with a shadow. According to a report from Pace Official, 30% of entrepreneurs report experiencing depression, 29% have ADHD, 11% are diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And I've mentioned before on this podcast, I have found out in the last year that I'm on the spectrum. And originally I thought it was an anxiety disorder and a social anxiety disorder and ADHD. It turns out it's autism. These numbers are significantly higher than the general population. Why is that? Because the same qualities that make someone a relentless creator, high energy, nonstop ideation, risk tolerance, can also create volatility, burnout, and instability. If you bring someone like that onto your team and you don't have the structure to support or absorb that energy, it can become a major liability. Hiring mistakes are expensive. The US Department of Labor estimates the cost of a bad hire is at least 30% of the person's first year salary. And that doesn't even count for the ripple effects like lost productivity, morale issues, and potential customer dissatisfaction. Gallup adds to that in their own study. They said that only 1 in 10 have the natural talent to manage others. I have seen this over and over again. We're promoting folks who are good at their job, but they're not good people managers. Yet we keep hiring and keep promoting based on technical skills rather than cultural alignment. So here's what I want you to take away. Don't confuse innovation with misalignment. You can foster creativity inside a structured, value-driven culture. Hire for alignment. Hire people who resonate with your mission, who want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, who will help turn the flywheel you've already built. I recommend you ask some questions to test for this, and they need to be situational. We need to get further than what we can read on the resume. Something like, tell me about a time when you followed through on a system someone else created. Or how do you feel about executing someone else's vision with excellence? That's not stifling innovation. That's building sustainable momentum. So what if you have an entrepreneurial spirit in your job description right now? Or if that's something that leaders in your company say when they're searching for new folks, well, here's why entrepreneurial spirit may backfire. Number one, it's a misleading signal. The phrase tends to attract people who value autonomy, fast pivots, and building things from scratch. That might work in an early stage startup, but in a small business where systems, collaboration, and consistency matter, it creates tension. I once hired an individual. She was so driven and so incredible, and I was very excited to have her on my team. And then when I asked her to execute on a task, what she said was, well, if you want me to do it backwards, I'll do it like that. And I was like, oh, well, hey, based on our selling strategy and then what we're actually providing, here's how we need to deliver on this. And again, in a team setting, she said, yeah, if you want me to operate backwards, I will. And as soon as she said that, I realized me asking her to execute on a system that I've created is literally offending her. It's making her feel unvalued. And it really quickly became evident to me we were misaligned. It was tough. It created a ton of tension, but it was a misleading signal for me to treat her like she was going to be a partner to me because she was really a member of the team and I was setting the direction. And so an entrepreneurial spirit I did not need. It also is a culture clash risk. As they shared in the episode on Diary of a CEO, individuals with strong entrepreneurial traits may challenge existing processes. What I know is they're also going to struggle with authority because I do. And they also become frustrated if their ideas aren't rapidly implemented. That is me with a red light flashing over me. I am such a high logic, low emotion individual. That doesn't mean I'm not expressive. I'm just not using my emotions to make decisions. I'm so high logic. I'm very black and white. And so if the data tells me something, I don't care if it's uncomfortable for me or not, or uncomfortable for you or not, like we're going to roll. And we're going to do it with fervor. Like we're going with it. And when I would be in, whether it's a big corporate structure or a more diplomatic or more consensus driven organization, I was looking to my right and my left, like, are you people lazy or crazy or what's the deal? And they're not. It's just, I'm different. I didn't belong in a big, slow system like that. It also can lead to disappointment and turnover, obviously. Candidates who interpret entrepreneurial spirit as freedom to innovate without constraints might feel stifled when they encounter the realities of team alignment, systems, or long-term goals. So here's some things that I would recommend that you say instead if this is you. Let's focus on some alternative phrases that still communicate drive, ownership, and creativity without inviting cultural misfits into your team. We want people with a quote unquote strong sense of ownership and accountability. This signals follow through, not just ideation. It sounds like I care deeply about the outcomes and I will own the process. You could also say you want somebody who thrives in a collaborative, fast-moving environment. This communicates adaptability, but with a team mindset. This signals that they'll innovate within a structure, not apart from it. And I'm cracking up. I'm sure you guys have all seen the memes of people sitting in a cubicle setting and it's like, this is your fast-paced environment. Don't call it a fast-paced environment if it's really not. If you take forever to make decisions, it's not a fast-moving environment. Stop saying that. Okay, another thing you might want to say is resourceful problem solver who respects existing systems. This encourages creative thinking without system disruption. It's useful for roles where innovation may still follow guidelines, which is going to be in most settings. Or you could say excited to contribute to and improve established processes. This attracts builders, not wrecking balls. And you know what? I'm a builder, but I can also be a wrecking ball, and I get that. You're wanting someone who sees opportunity inside the structure. So let's talk about some sample language swaps. Instead of saying, we're looking for someone with an entrepreneurial spirit to help us scale our operations, say, we're looking for a resourceful, accountable team player who takes ownership and brings fresh thinking to our growing, values-driven team. You'll be working inside a fast-moving but process-oriented environment where collaboration and consistency matter. Oh, that's so beautiful. I recommend that you hit the back button a few times on your 15 seconds, rewind back through that, take that down, take these words, the what's to say, and use these in your job post when you're trying to get what you want, because there's a ton of power when we're posting jobs or we have things in job descriptions. I think a lot of times we think that's HR jargon. We're just checking the box, but it's not. These are powerful terms. And not to mention, let's say you do make a mishire and later you're needing to pivot or move someone in a different direction. When you are writing out their written warning or their employee performance improvement plan, you can reference this is what we're wanting. This is what we had in the job description. This is that you said you agreed to. This is what we had in the job post. And then here's how you're straying from that. And this is what we need you to do to come back together to work successfully inside of our culture. So these documents that you're using to attract the right candidate and then create accountability and then monitor performance, they matter. They're not HR checks in the box. If you need help on things like that, my firm is happy to jump in with you. Listen, thanks for spending time with me on this today. If you are navigating hiring challenges or trying to build a culture that lasts, you don't have to do it alone. There are people there to help you push the HR easy button with humble efficiency and honest support. I know that things like this can feel like chaos, especially when you're not trained in them, but the work is worth it. And so don't waste the chaos, embrace it. Till next time.